A lot of us are sweating and thinking and talking about the upcoming balance of power battle for control of the U.S. Senate. Will Donald Trump's presidency essentially be neutered if the United States Senate goes Democrat? Will we be looking at a stronger Republican majority instead? And what will that mean? Who are some of the candidates? Well, here to discuss it is U.S. Senator Ron Johnson, our neighboring senator from Wisconsin. Welcome, Senator, to Ox in the Afternoon, sir.
Hello, Dan. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Quite the day today. Kind of an emotional morning, that's for sure, here in St. Cloud.
I'm not in St. Cloud, so I'm not 100% sure what the story is, but my condolences.
No, it's the Jacob Wetterling abduction, from back in the 80s, and now here the investigation. All the records were released this morning, and it's just amazing to see what happened. So, wow. Moving forward, though, Senator Johnson, we're all watching. In fact, Karen Housley, candidate for U.S. Senate here in Minnesota, maybe you've heard of her. Made a stop
I haven't met her.
in St. Cloud today, and she's looking to unseat Tina Smith, who took over for the disgraced Al Franken. But first of all, Senator, you've got a bona fide pickup opportunity in Wisconsin, correct?
We do, and Danny, if James Carville was even partially correct that these elections are all about the economy, I mean, in Wisconsin, we have 2.9% unemployment. Scott Walker's held tuition steady. It hasn't raised it. Property taxes have actually gone down. Nationally, we're at 3.9% unemployment. Record low levels of unemployment for blacks and Hispanics. I mean, the economy is humming along in a rational political environment. First of all, Scott Walker would be reelected by acclamation. Leah Vukmir, who was right there at his side, helping him turn the state around, she would replace Tammy Baldwin. And Republicans would pick up Senate seats throughout the nation because the economy really is out of the doldrums from the Obama administration. But again, these aren't necessarily rational times.
Might be, right? We don't know. But we'll see what happens in November. Hopefully a little bit of rationality comes into play. Tell me about, now you're not up for re-election. You won your re-election 2 years ago, so you've got another 4. But your counterpart there is vulnerable, the Democrat in Wisconsin, and there's a strong Republican candidate?
Absolutely. Leah Vukmir is the Republican candidate against Tammy Baldwin, who has some real problems with really not moving when she got information on the Toma VA scandal. Leah is first and foremost a mom. Her son is a trained Army Ranger serving the military. She's also a nurse. She continues to teach nursing. And I probably first met Leah 34 years ago when she was a nurse on the neonatal intensive care unit where my daughter had a serious congenital heart defect. We didn't know it at the time, but we kind of put 2 and 2 together when I first actually met her in 2010. But again, I can't think of anything that says you care than being a mom and a nurse. And so you got Leah Vukmir, a citizen legislator, somebody who, again, was there with Scott Walker, fielding the threats when he was turning the state around with the legislation that really gave school districts and cities the ability to balance their budgets, and it's worked great. And so again, in a rational political world, Leah Vukmir would win overwhelmingly, and Scott Walker would, they'd be begging him to keep serving.
Unbelievable. And and the polls, I don't know, do we talk about the polls? What are they showing?
Well, I mean, the first poll with Marquette polls, she had within 2. Now it's widened quite a bit, but let's face it, Dan, if I had listened to polls, I would have gone home and quit a few months before my reelection. I ended up winning in Wisconsin by a pretty handy margin, more than 3 percentage points.
Yep,
so
that was great.
Again, I just have to believe that in the end, Republicans will understand that if we want to maintain Wisconsin on this right path, that if we want to make sure that the reforms that Governor Walker has enacted stay in place and aren't overturned by a Democrat governor and legislature, or a Democrat-led Supreme Court, they'll get out to the polls, and it's all going to be about turnout. It's going to be about whose base is more energized. Right now, we know the left is angry and energized. We need to make sure that Republicans and conservatives are every bit as energized and get out to the poll.
Now, you would contend that a high voter turnout would result in the Republicans getting elected in Wisconsin? That's refreshing.
Well, a high voter turnout of Republicans.
Okay, got you. I understand. Also, if I can, Senator, there's some neighboring states also that have some contests, one being a North Dakota-born guy. It's always been interesting to watch the politics, as it is a state dominated by Republicans, yet represented in Washington oftentimes by Democrats. Your colleague Heidi Heitkamp has a challenge on her hands, and as I understand, Kevin Cramer has got a real strong chance of taking that seat.
Yeah, I agree with you. North Dakota is a little bit of a head scratcher. They vote overwhelmingly for Republican presidents, and they've sent way more Democrat senators to the Senate in the last few decades than they have Republicans. Right now, they have John Hoeven, who's a highly successful governor. The Democrats in North Dakota always talk a good game, and by and large, they're pretty reasonable people to deal with. But in the end, they vote with the Democratic caucus, and they're not helpful to the cause. I mean, Heidi Heitkamp voted against the tax reform. I'm quite sure she did. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but bottom line, if she gets reelected, it has a greater chance that Chuck Schumer will be the next majority leader, and then President Trump just simply won't be able to confirm judges. Conservative judges. People have the modesty of staying within their Article 3 branch of the Constitution, as opposed to being super legislators and encroaching on the Article 1 branch of the government.
How frustrating is it to try to get people to understand the importance of majorities? A lot of people say, I just vote for the person. It's like, yeah, I appreciate that, but you have to consider the majority. And if that person is in a majority that you disagree with, you have no business voting for that person because you're cutting your own throat, basically.
Well, in the end, it is a team sport. Who's in the majority does control the floor of the Senate, and certainly has capability of confirming the nominees of the president. So it's incredibly important. I think what frustrates me is when I hear people say, oh, there's no difference between the parties. No, there's a tremendous difference. The economy is moving because President Trump, backed up by Republicans in the House and Senate, we stopped adding to the regulatory burden. Dan, we actually reduced the regulatory burden. We passed a tax system that's more competitive globally. That's why the economy has taken off. It was in the doldrums under Obama. And I tell you that the best economic news, in comparison, Obama in his last 2 years, business investment only averaged 0.6% growth. During the first 6 quarters of this administration, business investment has averaged 7.3% per quarter. 7.3%. I mean, I think the high level is over 11%. It's that investment in business that creates jobs, creates opportunity, lays the foundation for even stronger economic growth in the future. It's an enormous difference between the parties. So, no, elections matter a great deal. And if you like the fact that we have low unemployment, that you can get a job anywhere, and you can start trading up in terms of your opportunities, then you want to make sure that President Trump is backed up by Republicans in Congress, and you also want to make sure that you elect Republicans and conservatives in your own state.
Where else is there a pickup opportunity? I'm hearing Montana, and your colleague John Tester could be a short-termer here. Well,
I think Montana, Missouri. I think Claire McCaskill's pretty vulnerable down there. Florida, Governor Scott seems to be doing pretty good, but we've got our challenges in Nevada and Arizona and Tennessee. So, no, it's completely up in the air. And, all I can say is Republicans, you can't sit on the couch. You can't let your frustration that we didn't do everything you wanted us to do. Trust me, I'm highly frustrated. I'm disappointed we didn't get everything done. But we have made such a enormous difference in terms of, again, the regulatory burden, stopped adding to it, a more competitive tax system. We've got the economy moving. Democrats, they can reverse all of those gains very quickly, and they would, because they're not Democrats anymore, Dan. They're socialists, and they're unabashed. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. They are full-fledged socialists, and we know how that movie ends. Look at Venezuela. I was just reading the flow, about 1.5 million Venezuelans out of that socialist paradise.
We don't want to go that direction, obviously. It doesn't work anywhere in the world that it's ever been tried. Why would we want to do it here? That's a great mystery. But that is what they want, and that's what we're seeing. Senator Ron Johnson on KNSI's Ox in the Afternoon today. Also, Senator, the Families Act. You've got a new initiative to help figure out what to do with the families crossing the border.
Well, we are trying to work this individual problem. And again, right now, law enforcement is in an impossible situation. If they enforce the laws, there are legal precedents that force them to separate families. And nobody wants that. Okay, we saw the results. Nobody wants that. If they don't enforce the law, we're back to what Obama was forced to do, catch and release. And so you've got a relatively young man coming in with a young woman claiming that's his daughter, and there's no way we can determine that. And so basically, Customs and Border Patrol just haven't let those people go. And that's a completely unacceptable situation. So what we're trying to do is work in a problem-solving process. We've been gathering a lot of information, laying out all the statistics, trying to find areas of agreement. Define the problem, do root cause analysis, and then work with our Democrat colleagues and say, come on, what do we agree on? We all want to secure the border, right? Well, they can't deny they don't want to secure the border. We want to enforce our immigration laws. We don't want to separate families. We want to maintain some kind of reasonable level of asylum laws. So I'm just trying to go through that business process of solving a problem by first finding the areas of agreement, identifying the areas of disagreement, trying to find some accommodation so that we can turn an area of disagreement into an area of agreement and just fix this one problem that I think everybody views as a problem. It's completely unacceptable, but not do overall immigration reform, but just fix this one individual problem about our inability to enforce laws without separating families. So it's not going to be easy, but we're going through a very thoughtful process. We'll probably start marking up the bill next Wednesday. Mm-hmm. I don't expect even to take a vote on it. We'll just keep fleshing out, come on, what do we agree on? Okay, where do we disagree? How can we accommodate each other? And we'll see where it goes from there. It's a completely genuine, good faith effort, and it's going to be very transparent. It's going to be open for the public. None of this gang of 4, gang of 8 behind closed doors. Yeah. We're trying to solve this problem in the light of day over a number of hearings and meetings and committee markups.
Senator Ron Johnson, finally, sir, yay or nay on Kavanaugh?
Well, I'm already declared that I'm going to vote for his confirmation. I can't predict exactly what's going to happen as maybe more information comes out. But what's most disappointing is how Dianne Feinstein has completely abused the process. And you got to take a look at how the Democrats are abusing all the confirmation process. But listen, what she should have done with that information, she should have immediately taken it to Chairman Grassley. Could have left off the woman's name, and they could have worked together to determine how can we get to the bottom of this? How can we investigate a 36-year-old episode? So, again, I think their motives are pretty transparent. They're just trying to block and obstruct the confirmation process. I think Chairman Grassley has done a phenomenal job of trying to accommodate, trying to get the information, putting up with these hijinks from the Democrats. I'm not on the committee. I can't exactly tell you what's going to happen. I hope Dr. Blasey Ford comes forward and tells her story. I think we know a lot of it. Anybody else has information, they should bring it forward. But let's face it, Brett Kavanaugh is unequivocally denying this allegation. And you take a look at his past, take a look at how he's lived his life, his 12 years on the D.C. Circuit Court. This is an exceptional candidate, and I certainly want to vote for confirmation.
Yep. Hopefully next week. Hopefully we get this thing done. Senator Johnson, thanks for your time. I do appreciate it, and we'll see where that goes. And thanks for all of the hospitality you show us when we show up in Washington, D.C. a few times a year. We appreciate that.
It's great having you. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Ron Johnson, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson joining us on your Leighton Broadcasting stations.